not ideal to set up too close to it because parries prefer to land out in the open. So yeah, try to stay away from them a wee bit, but just make use of the natural cover that's around. Ditches and fence lines and that sort of thing are very useful.
A few differences between hunting parries and hunting mallards, Ian?
Oh, absolutely. The parries are really easily huntable. They're quite naive. They decoy really readily, and you don't need very complicated gear. I mean, you can get away without a dog just hunting them over open paddocks. And if you set your decoys up well, then they come in very nicely to your decoys and make them in quite shootable locations. It's not complicated. They're not moving as fast as mallards might, and as I say, they're very naive, and even quite late movement in the final shooting is sometimes not very off-putting for them. So they just, once they're committed to the decoys, they come in relatively readily.
So they're an ideal bird for introducing young hunters, perhaps?
Oh, absolutely, yeah. I mean, you can quite cheaply make up some decoy silhouettes and take them out, and as long as you can find the birds, then you've got every chance of success.
Okay. So Ian found these birds, as I said earlier, a couple of days ago, so we've just found them in this paddock again this morning, walked up, scared the birds off the paddock and set up our decoy spread, obviously where we want to hunt them from. The outer edge of the decoy is about 15 metres or so from where we're hiding, something like that.
That's right, yeah. No, that seems to be pretty good. It's ideal to leave a bit of a hole just in front of you, just so that they've got somewhere to land, and if you can do that, you can really focus where you want to do your shooting, and that helps a lot.
And in terms of calling the birds, a lot more simple than calling mallards?
Yeah, it's fairly straightforward, and just a honk and a toot here and there, and they seem to respond pretty well. So, and you don't need to overcall them. They can, as soon as they're committed to the decoys, they're generally on their way in, so they just put their feet down and they're into it.
Having said how simple it all is today with no wind, it'll probably be quite difficult, will it?
Yeah, so they're fairly tough conditions. I mean, the birds are there, they want to get back to this paddock at some stage, but they can hear the shooting from a long way off, and with the lake so handy, it's going to make things a little bit tricky, but we'll see how we go.
Okay. And one other thing, I guess, is that you can hunt them in the middle of the day, as we are today, rather than first light and last light, as you tend to with mallards.
Yeah, this is what's great about it. I mean, you can find these parries on the way home from your other hunting, and just come to a paddock like this, walk them off. Important not to shoot at them and scare them away. But if you just walk them off and set the decoys up, you can hunt them any time of the day. Sure. Just fantastic.
So an ideal scenario would be hunting them further away from a wetland than we are here, so they don't hear your shots on the wetland?
Yeah, for sure. The sort of places you want to look for them, though, they are graziers, so they like open green paddocks. Yeah, you do want to be away from big open water. That doesn't help a lot. But grain paddocks, crop paddocks, and this new grass, short grass, is really favoured habitat for the parries.
Sure. So we'd use the same scenario in North Island maize paddocks, for example, where they're hunted quite heavily?
Oh, for sure, yeah. Setup would be a wee bit different. You'd probably have a different sort of set of camo, but for this it'll be it's ideal.
Well, you may have noticed today that we're using two different types of decoys here. This is actually an old Canada goose shell that's been painted up, obviously like a parry, just painted in that orangey brown all over, and then a bit more detail added to it. It's had just a light spray of dark or black on the front just to dull it down a bit, and again a bit more black on the back of the bird, obviously some patches of white and white head for the female. The males are a lot easier, obviously just black all over, black head with just a small patch of white, really. Very simple. Very good, they're very visual, they're quite large, they're obviously larger than a parry, but that large size doesn't deter the birds. Just the same with Canada geese, you can use much larger decoys, and with mallards too for that matter. But they're very visual, so birds see them from a long distance. Being three-dimensional as well helps. They're obviously a lot more lifelike than the more basic silhouette. Having said that, we're using the silhouettes as well. You can't get a more basic decoy really than these. This one is just cut out of plywood and obviously painted up in reasonably realistic, albeit basic colours. Some of them have more, slightly more sophisticated stands on them that you can push into the ground, which are better. But these are very easy to make. Obviously a vague duck pattern, if you like, and painted up accordingly. Having said that, if you're hunting paradise shelduck in an area where they receive quite a bit of hunting pressure, you may struggle to shoot a lot of birds with these, especially later in the season when the birds have been targeted by other hunters. Earlier in the season it shouldn't be so bad, but just observe how the birds behave around these decoys. And it may be that if you're struggling to decoy them, if you're not hidden well enough yourself, or if they don't seem to be performing well and reacting well to these, you might need to go to something like that goose shell, or probably an interim step would be to use old mallard decoys. Just cut the keel off those and paint them up. They can work very well as well. So yeah, just start out with these if you haven't got anything else and see how it goes from there really. But certainly as a starting point, very simple, very cheap to make, and a bit of fun prior to the duck season as well. We're lucky enough to be here on the west coast for hunting paradise shelduck. They have a special season over here because they've got a reasonably abundant population of parries, as most people call them, and relatively few hunters, which keeps them in check with local farmers. Now the method we're going to use here for hunting parries is just to lie out in an open field here and target them as they come in towards the decoys. And this is a method that works very well, particularly with parries, but also obviously with Canada geese as well. Right, so we've arrived at this paddock. We knew there was parries feeding here from talking with the farmer. So we're just going to set the decoys up around here. They'll be quite visible from where the parries are coming from. We've also got some Canada goose decoys with us as well. Quite a lot of fish and game regions have got those that you can hire, and they're really good. There's some geese living here as well, but they're really good for visibility. We're also showing sort of the budget end of the decoy spectrum, if you like. You know, these are generally just cut out of ply, core flute, the material that you make real estate signs with. They're good as well, and you can just cut those with a knife, craft knife, so they work particularly well. You might want to, if the parries have been hunted much, you might want to touch up your decoys a bit more than these have been probably, to be fair, but it is the west coast after all. When you're decoying birds, you really want to work out how far away you think you'll be able to shoot them from where you're sitting, where you're lying. These outer decoys, where Chris is at the moment, are actually only about 15 yards from where we'll be concealed. So we don't want them any further than that in this situation, because the birds will probably look to land on the outside of that decoy fringe, which will put them at 20 to 25 metres from where we're concealed, which is a nice range to shoot at. Right, well, Dean's just pacing out how far, with I think short steps, the outer decoys are from where we're going to be concealed for hunting. We're presuming that with the breeze we've got, the parries will be coming in to about where Dean is on that sort of face.
That's 20.
Okay, so that's 20 metres to there. Right, we've set up to hunt these parries in a paddock scenario, just a grass-based paddock that's been cut over for baleage. But the same sort of hunting technique will work for mallards as well, or Canada geese obviously, where you hunt them out in open fields with camo lying out in the field. Coffin blinds would be very good in this scenario, but we haven't got that here. One of the key considerations is safety, as always with hunting. And when you're lying down in a prone position, you need to always remember obviously where the barrel of your shotgun is, and ensure that you always have the barrel past your foot and pointed in a safe direction. And especially at times, always, but especially at times when you're picking up the gun to shoot, you know, and you're watching birds and your hands slipping around safeties and triggers and things. You know, worst case scenario is you fired the gun when you're fumbling to pick it up, especially if you're hunting and it's cold and your fingers aren't quite as dexterous as they should be in the winter. Yeah, if your barrel's past your foot, you know, you avoid any real risk there, which is very important. So we've set the decoys up here on this knob where it's visible. Wind direction's coming straight over my shoulder, so the birds should use that wind when they come into land. So hopefully the birds will look to land at the tail of the decoys here. While we're in open pasture here today, this method of hunting works particularly well in stubble paddocks, particularly maize stubbles in the North Island where birds are coming in to feed there. And in that scenario you can pull up some old maize and help hide yourself using that natural cover. Right, so for load and choke combinations in this scenario, because I'm hopeful that we'll decoy the birds relatively close, I'm only using improved cylinder I prefer to try and get the birds close and have a reasonably open choke, and I don't flatter myself as a good waterfowl shot. I think you're better using that personally than using a tighter choke and then you're missing birds when they're close.